We can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Six participants online so far. Yeah.
So what's the latest on grandkids? What are they doing?
What are they doing? Let's see.
Are they always?
Neither Rippy.
Well,
What's
Neither Rippy.
she went to a high school dance recital in the
We
best.
can hear your conversation. Just wanted to let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In the gym, and they are now the dance troupe are now her fans.
She has fans.
Yeah. Yeah, she got quite the jazzed up.
How old is she?
Or
That is too cute. Make it that age in our fair. It's my favorite is the 4-year-old and all that because it's just, it's almost a little bit like watching a train wreck.
all the time.
It's highly entertaining.
Yeah.
We dressed them up as monkeys one year and they're all chasing each other, pulling each other's tails on the stage. We called it intricate choreography. Still no Peter. Talked to him just about 1 minute ago.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna start here in about 10 seconds.
Okay, Christy, we're gonna get ready and get going.
Recording in progress.
The February 28th, 2024 Special City Council meeting is now called to order. Is there any conflict of interest from the council?
No.
No.
No? Okay, right now we're going to just by consensus suspend the usual agenda that we have for our city council meetings and go straight into our public communications and then into the ordinance and resolutions that we're going to consider. So if I can have consensus, is it agreeable that we suspend our normal city council reports,
Yes.
city officer
Yeah.
reports, that
Yeah.
kind of thing?
We can get that next week.
Yes. Won't change that much, will it? Oh, all right. So with that being said, I'm gonna go right into public communications, written and oral. Anyone wishing to address the city council concerning items of interest not on the agenda may do so at this time. All remarks will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Requests to comment electronically must be submitted by email to the city recorder at info@cityofgearhart.com no later than 4 p.m. of the day of the meeting. In-person attendees wishing to speak are required to sign in prior to the meeting. Okay. We have no one signed in.
Right.
And we have nothing else. We have a late course. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak at this time on something not on the agenda? No? No? Okay. Late written correspondence. Everyone got a copy of this letter from Deb Papadopoulos. I'm sorry if I've done damage to your last name. Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to the resolutions. 992, Chad, do you want to go through this?
Certainly. So we have the three resolutions here for consideration as we go for this advisory vote. Peter Watts is online as well. The three resolutions are 922, 933, and 934. Each of them asking a little bit different question.
I'm sorry. Will you say those numbers again?
Sure, 992, 993, and 994.
Okay.
Questions individually. This is gauging support for the new public safety building downtown, and tonight we are here to discuss these three resolutions. As far as timeline goes, we are within our timeline and deadlines to accomplish this if these resolutions are passed. The ballot time deadline will be March 1st. Just fill in the SEL 802 form, which we are ready for. And that gives us enough time to go through a referral challenge period. If that in fact happens, and then the ballot title and referral deadlines to file a notice of measure explanatory statement is on March 21st. Deadline for voter pamphlet arguments would be March 25th, and this would be for the May 21 primary election. After that, it's up for discussion with the council of direction to go for staff.
Okay, does anyone have any comments?
I'd like to hear from Peter on this,
And Peter is online,
but he is muted.
and we'll see if he works on that. Peter, can you hear us okay?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
All right. So this, I drafted these. I had mentioned this a couple months ago. I think there's a lot of speculation on why the prior fire station did not receive the support that it would need to pass. Fell far short of that. Some people speculated that it was the location, that people wanted a location downtown and they would support that, but they didn't want it closer to the highway at the higher elevation. Other people speculated that it was just too expensive. Part of that station included some amenities on the second floor so that the volunteers could some of the volunteers could essentially live at the station or stay at the station. That there was some thought that would help attract volunteers. And we don't know, of course, why it went down, but maybe it's just that people don't want a new fire station. So what I did in this was essentially focus on a couple of questions. One was, would you support a fire station downtown? Maybe people would, or maybe they wouldn't. Would you support a fire station with the type of amenities on the second floor? That would apply to either of the locations. And then the other question related to the higher location. So one of the benefits of the higher location, again, not that that's the right location, but one of the benefits would be that it would likely qualify for federal grant funds because for kind of what are referred to as resiliency grants, which is if you can move a critical facility from a place that's more likely to be inundated in a tsunami or other major issue, sometimes that will open up a set of grants that wouldn't otherwise be. So I think that the questions are, do you as a council want to go out for advisory votes, knowing that this would give Gearhart voters who have the ability to authorize funds it would give us kind of the best evidence of whether they would support a new fire station at either location, and whether they would support additional amenities at that to help with volunteer recruitment and retention. I think that before the last election, I heard a lot of people saying, well, you're really not listening. The council's not listening to the people. We did have a bunch of surveys and prior to that vote, but we hadn't actually gone to the voters. So it's possible that the Gearhart community, which are people that have a home in Gearhart but aren't domiciled here or vote in our elections, it's possible that their support and they participated on those surveys was different than that of Gearhart voters. So this would give us the best evidence of where Gearhart voters are. It's possible if they're not inclined to do something and it's a no vote, then I think that would help inform council and staff as far as how to spend staff resources and what priorities would be moving forward, because a lot of people did spend a lot of time on the issue of the fire station prior to the last vote. And
Thank you.
if we want to get it on the May ballot, then we still have the ability to do that, and Chad can turn that around. All the neutrality reviews would apply immediately as soon as we get to the clerk. If we want to, if you want voters to have more time to understand what the information we're trying to get and why we'd want it, then we could push this to the November election. Usually November elections have higher voter turnout than the primary elections in May.
Okay, so in plain English, what you're saying is, if we decide to go for the vote in May, that at that point, between now and May, our city employees would not be able to provide information or provide feedback to the public if they have questions to help them to make their decisions?
They can, if there's a public records request, they can provide documents in response to that. If the information is completely neutral, then that's possible. This is kind of different than a regular ballot title because it's an advisory vote. It doesn't actually accomplish anything other than provide the city with information. But the neutrality review, the rules would still be in place. So yeah, our staff couldn't provide anything that wasn't completely neutral. They do have rights. So if it's the weekend or something, then they could do something, but not in their official capacity.
And their official capacity, you're talking about when they're working for the city.
Correct. And they're able to use their title, but they're not able to say, like, as city treasurer, I believe that. So there's some technical requirements there that I'll review with them if we're on the May ballot.
So does that preclude any more town halls between now and then?
It would probably be prudent not to have town halls because we could do a town hall, but we have to ensure neutrality. And, I guess you as the city council could do it. We couldn't use city property if there's going to be advocacy occurring. So that is kind of one wrinkle.
The wrinkle is that we couldn't use the fire station for a meeting.
Well, the wrinkle is that some of the questions that we might need to ask them to give us answers on, somebody could raise the argument that when they gave their answer, they advocated and that was improper. So it would be threading a needle trying to give answers without going into opinions. Really a tough thing to do.
Yeah, I would add to that any information we present we would have to be extremely careful about the way it was presented.
Well, the council can advocate for this. Either way, it's only the employees of the city. Is that not correct, Peter?
Right, so you as counselors can advocate political positions freely. You're expected to engage in advocacy. City staff would not be able to do any of that. It would not be able to get out any information really that looks like advocacy.
Can I say something? I think this is all nonsense. I think that the last Monday night, we had this voting thing going on, right? All right, well, about 10 of the questions were really redundant. I think that what we need to do is to take the information that we got from this last meeting with the general public, get the questions down to where they're not asking the same thing 15 times so that the people don't get confused. We have it to where every homeowner has the ability to come down and vote or speak or do whatever, give their opinions and everything like that. I mean, I don't even know why we're doing this. I think that the general public, the reason that you guys didn't pass the last bond were for two reasons. One, you had it outside of town, 2 miles from the substation up there, the herding station, and 1.5 or 2 miles from the existing station. Everybody that I've spoken to wants the fire department in downtown Gearhart where it's always been. So, I mean, that's my opinion, but let the general public come down and tell us that. And allow at a time when the people from Portland who own property up here, who we're using as an ATM machine, okay, have their say in where they want their fire station. They were the ones that were always supportive.
Well, wouldn't
the
that
fire
be
department.
the same thing by having an advisory vote? Anyone that was voting could do
These
that,
people, you put this on there, it only goes to the voters in Gearhart,
right?
okay? Those people that are not registered in Gearhart, that are paying most of the taxes, don't have a say.
That is an unfortunate circumstance when you have a second home, but it is not something.
Terry, I'm gonna argue with you on this until one of us, you know, is sick and tired of it.
You're sick and tired of it?
No, I'm sick and tired of this city not acknowledging the opinions of those people up there.
That's what we're trying to do with this
Then have the
voting.
town hall meetings and invite everybody down and forget this thing here.
Well, I thought we were inviting everybody down. What are you?
You know something? The meeting that we had at 3 o'clock in the afternoon had more people in it than the one that we had at 6.
By 7 people. That's all. It was 77 on the afternoon meeting and it was 70 on Monday. Okay?
Oh,
Well, if I can, your point is taken. I know that there are some people, second homeowners that are feeling that this ignores their opinion and does the opposite of what we're trying to do, which is get as much information and good information that helps us make our decisions. So I would say that this is not something that we would want 100% rely on, but it might be information that could, you know, that would be useful because it is the actual voters that are gonna have to vote on a bond, the people that are homeowners. But we still need to continue doing our town halls. And I think that my concern with this is that we're asking them to give answers to questions that to things that we're not quite ready to discuss. These are things about where are we going to put it and what is it going to look like? And I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we have enough information and they don't have enough information to give us an accurate or to give a valid response or a response that we can rely on because it could change down the road. I've had people contact me about resolution number 992. They feel it's not clear enough to people that the current existing location is in a tsunami inundation zone. And I would agree that you should put that in there so that people don't say, oh, well, knowing that now, I didn't realize that, but now I know that, I'm gonna give you a different answer. I think it's just, to me, it's a little too soon. And then my other issue with this is that we have to pay for it to go on in May. And it could be free in November. So if we put this off until November, that gives us more time to provide information, to answer questions. We're not hobbling our staff and preventing them from being able to give information freely or making them worried about giving answers out. And it would be free if we put it off until November. So that's my input. I'm not saying that this is an invaluable tool in combination with the information we're gonna get back from town halls, but I think we have some more work to do before we get to this, and I don't necessarily want to spend money on this right now.
Make a motion.
Do,
Oh, go ahead.
Well, there are people that have discussion before we make a motion.
Yeah.
do we know how much it will cost us?
Estimates would be somewhere around $2,000.
So if her question or her resolution or total?
Total.
So if this goes to a vote, let's say it goes in May, and people vote no on every single measure, would that mean that the project be dead in the water from here on in?
Not from here on in, but it'd be dead in the water.
So I just think that, I agree with Dana, I think it's too soon, I do. I think it would also preclude us from having town halls, which the community seems to really like. And I'd like to keep that momentum going.
I think that what we ought to do is to have some geologist come and actually tell us what's gonna happen in a size 6.57 or whatever it is, from the grade school on out to, well beyond where I live. That, number one, the highway's not gonna be there.
Tom Horning did do that for us.
When
7,
Tom Horning moves out of his mom and dad's place that flooded in '64,
I don't know.
okay, I'll start believing what he says.
Well, we could
And
certainly.
I've told him that straight to his face.
Uh-huh.
We
Well, that's
could
great.
certainly invite somebody from Dogami out here and somebody who could better explain to us the type of engineering that would be required under 2605, what we would be looking at. The problem with 2605, House Bill 2605, with robust engineering that they're requiring is that nobody has yet started to build and is actually can tell us yet how much that increased cost, or whether it was not an issue at all, which could in fact be the case. It could be that it really wasn't a big issue, or it could be a very expensive issue. And I think that Peter's correct, that and you are correct, there are some people that said, no, I will never vote for it anywhere else. I've heard people say, no, I will never vote for it if it's there. But I've also had a lot of people say, I don't care where it is, as long as it doesn't cost $14 million. Sticker shock was what stopped them. So I think that we need to not just hang our hat and on just one issue. I think we need to explore all of this. I think it's a little soon. We're pushing a little too fast on this. I don't think we need to discuss this stuff yet or ask them for opinions on this. It's like asking if you were to put an advisory vote out on right now on, do you like a 6-cylinder or an 8-cylinder car? I would say, well, I like an 8-cylinder car because it sounds like more, but I don't know enough about it to really give you a good, good detailed answer. I think we're just asking for answers to questions that we haven't given enough information in order to get valid feedback from.
Okay, I think the problem is, I've been on this council and I've had this information given to us several times. And you three have never had any of this information. And that's a valid point. If you don't have the information, you can't make an informed decision. And so we need to maybe just step back and have these experts come back in and tell us what's going to happen. I mean, the lake over where you live is supposed to be there for 20 years, is what I was told. 12 feet deep for 20 years. So I think it would behoove us to push this off now that I've come to this realization that only Rita and I have had this information, and you gotta have it to make an informed decision.
And we have a lot of our voters are new to town. Look at our population growth since COVID. Look at all the
Right.
number of people that moved. So they haven't heard of either. So I think that our plan was to start fresh and look at this with fresh eyes and build a foundation first before we move, on.
Sure.
I think that, so if you want me to make a motion that we don't go forward with this and we don't do an advisory vote, that's gonna be my motion.
I will ask if there's any other discussion.
Yeah, I want to point out that I think somebody should inform not only the council, but the general public, what the logistics are. If there's a tsunami, I mean, if there's an earthquake large enough to trigger a tsunami, and where the water's actually gonna come from and where it's gonna, and how high it's gonna be. The floor over there right now is 28 feet above sea level, okay? Leslie Miller Park up there is somewhere around 50 feet above sea level. If you raise this up, sure, your tires are gonna get wet. If there's, first of all, I mean, in a large earthquake, nobody's gonna be able to get here anyway.
No, and
You know,
I know
unless they're living up on the front there and can run down here to this station. They're not gonna get here anyway.
right,
So, I mean, that's what the geologists and the people that know what's gonna happen in a 6.5 to 9 earthquake can tell us.
okay,
But I'm not worried about the water getting up here.
Well, again, my thing would be, thank you, Peter, for working so hard on this. I know that you did, and I know that this was the direction that we originally said, maybe this would be a good direction to go, but I think upon further consideration and some of the input I'm receiving, I think it's too soon. So,
I think there's benefit to waiting and allowing more town hall and giving people venues to have more conversations, and I think that these questions could be further refined in order to reflect the feedback. So, we had originally the Leslie Miller Park had been a site. There was a lot of opposition to that, but that may have changed. And if so, maybe, that will be another question for Gearhart voters if we want to do this in November. So I certainly can see how further discussion and public input and all those things would help me refine these questions to really reflect, to really get the information that we need to get to move forward. And then I also think that if Gearhart, about 50% of the houses are the primary houses of folks and about 50% aren't. If those people that don't live here that aren't voters, if they strongly support it far more than voters, then there might be other tools that we could use, like a local improvement district or something like that would allow for more people to kind of share in whether they want it to happen or not. I can't speak to exactly what that would look like, but this might help us get more options if there is a kind of a disconnect between the Gearhart community and the Gearhart voters.
okay. Is there,
I have a comment, and I've said this to a few of you before, probably the only person here that's tried to put a building in the park. We were trying to put the new library in Broadway Park. It went to a vote, it was voted down by 70%, and the people here feel the same way about the parks. You will never put a building in Leslie Miller Park, because people who haven't even gone to the park in 5 years will say no. That's just the way people are. And that's my 2 cents.
thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
20 years.
For 20, I've never been up there. I don't want the building in the park.
All right. Sharon,
So I really appreciate everything you guys have said and the points that you've made, and I don't necessarily disagree because I could have gone either way on this. I think that there would have been some value perhaps in getting an upfront idea of maybe where we need to head and maybe where we don't need to head. And that's why I might have gone for putting this vote out there. But I also understand the points that you all are making about waiting until people are better informed. So I could go either way on that. I did have a question for, because I'm a little confused for Peter. At the firehouse meeting, Andy explained about the grants that are possible, and basically the bottom line that she said, if I understood her correctly, was that the grants would not be for the facility itself. So I'm wondering if you, Peter, know about grants that she doesn't know about as far as where it's located?
My understanding is that I believe that all the state grants can not be used for building the building. They can be used for other items. My understanding again, and I had when we were last going through this, I had a conversation with one of Representative Bonamici's staffers, who had indicated that there might be federal kind of resiliency type of grants that might be available. So that's, and I think Chad had a similar conversation with them as well. So I think if it's the federal grants could be used for a building, the state grants could not.
Right, and that's what Andy was saying, is she got the book that Rita talked about, which was all state grants, and none of them were federal.
Okay.
There was,
Yeah, and they weren't really state grants, they were all private grants.
there was a, before US Congress, a couple of years ago, there was, somebody introduced a bill to create a FEMA grant that would meet this type of a need, and it didn't receive bipartisan support, and it just kind of languished there, and it would have needed to be dusted off and reintroduced with bipartisan support to go anywhere. And it just didn't look like that was happening. And then last year, somebody reintroduced that, or not reintroduced, but introduced a very similar bill before the Senate. So kind of keeping an eye on that. It's tough right now because it's the political, outlook at the federal level. Whether that's going to go or not, I don't know. But I have spoken to a US congressman who has said, look, I've helped people in my district get this type of money, and we've gone through all of the motions, and I'm ready to go and give them money, and then I learned they don't have any money to do the price match, and it's just a waste of time. You have to get the public support, you have to know, and whether we actually get the money from a bond, or whether we just get the voters to say, yes, you can get a bond, and then we know we'll have the money to price match. That's the time to really pursue that kind of a thing.
Yeah, you have to have some money in the
Right,
game.
they like to see yes votes, they don't like to see no votes.
Yeah.
Because it looks like the community doesn't support so it's too soon for that, but we are certainly going to look for every dime that we can to help you guys save money, to help you save money. None of us want to spend money, we don't have to spend it. We can make the feds spend the money, that's what we're gonna do.
Okay, so Peter, can you please clarify what you said about where we locate the building vis-a-vis the grant possibilities?
Well, again, this is based on some dated information, and it's possible that some of the federal funds that were discussed were ARPA funds. There were ARPA funds that went to the state as well to be kind of provided to the cities on a project by project basis. But my understanding is to get the sort of federal funds that might be available, there would need to be like an increase in the elevation of the station. So there would need to be a public benefit that would make it less likely to be inundated. And I think Chad had some of those similar conversations. To get like a resiliency grant to better prepare us for that future event, we would need to demonstrate that the site provided a benefit in that manner. That's my understanding, but I can reach out to people again and see whether that's still true or whether things have changed.
Okay, so my question is, if we built up where it is now, if we build up that elevation, however that looks like, does that qualify for an elevation gain versus not even putting it there?
I can't answer that question, and I also can't answer how many feet of elevation would we need in order to qualify for something. I'd want to have those conversations again. I would have to do conversations on those.
About 8 years ago, we wrote a grant for the fire station at the time. And it was the one time where there was a building infrastructure grant monies available, but they only funded it by about 300 million for the entire nation. And they got thousands of applications, and 300 million wouldn't go very far. After that, we pay attention to what's called the AFG, the Assistance to Firefighters Grants, and that's through FEMA. And none of the grants since then, or even before then, had given any money towards infrastructure building because that money would go so fast. It was up to the point where it was either near COVID before or during the AFG system found almost $1 billion to give to firefighters. And we wrote grants for that, and we were successful on many of those. But none of it was for infrastructure because that money would just go so quickly and benefit the fewest. So we continually look at it. The other grants that people see quite often are, I think, USDA grants. Those grants, they were available to communities that were in the poverty levels. And there is infrastructure money for USDA grants for communities that are within those poverty levels, and Gearhart does not qualify.
Oh, okay, so what I'm trying to get at, and I think you guys are probably already there, but just for myself, do we just not worry about the grant situation vis-a-vis where the location is? We don't make the location a factor dependent on what grant money we might or might not get. That's a question.
Yeah, if we could find something for development of infrastructure, then we'd be able to answer that, but those grants just haven't come available.
So
We don't know.
it probably shouldn't be a factor, is what I'm hearing.
Well, we've discussed a little bit, and this isn't the time because it's not on our agenda, but we've discussed the possibility of hiring a professional, and that professional will also have connections and will have better information on that to provide us with. So that might be another.
I just brought it up because Peter said that, and so.
No, it's a good question. It's a good question. And if you have that question, somebody else can have that question. So there's nothing wrong with them asking questions.
Any more discussion, comments? Dana, would you like to make a motion?
Is that how we do it? Do we need a motion?
Yeah.
I take a motion that we just adjourn without taking a vote on this resolution until we get more information.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you very much for coming out to this. Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
She included both of hers, but that's okay.
I don't know if I can do that, so I'll just make a second motion. I motion to adjourn.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Adjourned.
Make it clean.
Thank you.
Who seconded yours?
Recording stopped.
Well,